My name is Elizabeth Echeverria, founder of Living in Liberty. Welcome to the Living in Liberty YouTube channel. Today we're going to ask a question that Living in Liberty often gets asked. What is the difference between prostitution and human trafficking? And where specifically I want to mention the movie Pretty Woman, if you remember, from the 1980s with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, which glamorized prostitution in our culture. And so now many people are confused and misinformed about what prostitution actually looks like and how those situations can easily turn into human trafficking. And, people want to know, so what is the difference between trafficking and prostitution? Are they one and the same? And so what I like to say is sometimes prostitution can be human trafficking, sometimes it isn't. And so what is human trafficking? Human trafficking is a legal definition or a threshold that must be met so that the case can be prosecuted. And there are three components that need to be met for it to meet that legal definition. It's action, means, and a purpose. And I'm going to explain each of those. So the action includes different actions, such as recruiting someone to be trafficked. So, finding some vulnerable people that either for labor or sex trafficking, and then grooming them or preparing them to be trafficked. Harboring, so controlling someone, holding them against their will, isolating them, confining them. Transporting them, so that's moving them for the purposes of trafficking them, or arranging travel for them. And providing, which means giving to another individual. Obtaining, forcefully obtaining someone or exchanging something for the ability to control that person. And so those are all the actions that could happen for trafficking. And then the second threshold is means. And means includes force, fraud, and coercion. And those have to be present for adult trafficking. When you're talking about trafficking of a minor, those three don't have to be present. A minor would always be considered to be trafficked without those three being present. So you just can't sell a minor. It's child abuse, and so that threshold does not need to be met. So what is force, fraud, and coercion? So force includes physical restraint, physical harm, sexual assault, so maybe raping and beating them, confining them, monitoring where they're going, controlling the victims, especially during early stages when they're grooming them. They'll beat them even more and try to break down the victim's resistance so that they'll be more compliant. The second one, fraud, includes making false promises to them, promising them a great job, and really they're going to sex traffic them. Or maybe they're going to say they're going to pay them X amount of wages and they, don't pay them anything at all. They have bad working conditions. Maybe it's, for love or marriage, arranged marriages or forced marriages. Or they promise them a better life. And over time, maybe they come. At first, it's kind of what they agreed to, and then the arrangement changes over time and it becomes something that they don't have any control over or can get out of. And then the last criteria for that means is coercion. And coercion is just like the word you think, they're coercing them, but it includes threats of serious harm, maybe physical violence or physical restraint. They psychologically manipulate them. They take their documents, like their identification, maybe their visa or passport, and they also may say shame them, or fear of inducing threats to share information or pictures with other people. So, taking compromising pictures of them and saying they're going to put them on the internet or social media or send them to family members is another way, the means that they use to coerce and control them. And so that's the second aspect. And then the third aspect is for the purpose of. So what are they going to do with them once they obtain them? They're going to sell, are they selling them for sex, for labor, you know, involuntary servitude where they don't have any choice but to serve? Debt bondage is the same kind of thing. That's where often, you know, they'll promise them, you know, they'll say, I will pay all your fees and your food, your travel expenses to go to this new country so you can create a new life, but you have to work for this person, you know, doing maybe working as a domestic, you know, cleaning and caring for children for a certain period of time, but often those periods of time aren't really explained or defined and go on what seems indefinitely, and so they never really pay their debt off, you know. And so another one is the forced or arranged marriages, and so those situations are also another purpose. So the three categories, action, means, purpose, are the criteria or components that must exist for it to meet that legal definition or threshold of trafficking. And remember, force, fraud, and coercion do not have to exist for children, for it to be considered trafficking in children, because children cannot, you know, meet that legal they don't have to meet that aspect of the legal definition for it to be trafficking. So again, when we're talking about prostitution and trafficking, not all prostitution meets the legal definition of trafficking. Maybe someone's trafficking themselves. In fact, in the streets of Pittsburgh, it's not unusual for us to see a woman maybe selling herself for drugs. And she doesn't have a pimp or a trafficker. And we do see women that do have a pimp or a trafficker and would meet all of these three criteria for the legal definition of trafficking. We as an organization don't differentiate on who we serve. We don't require someone to meet the legal definition of trafficking for us to serve them. We believe that no young girl grows up dreaming of selling themselves, prostituting themselves. And so it's a matter of life circumstances, choices maybe they're forced to make, or choices that they make when they're young, you know, 12, 13-year-old that they don't understand the consequences of, or maybe even economic situations that they're put in that they don't feel like they have a choice. And then often they find themselves being prostituted and or trafficked, and they don't know how to get out of these situations. And so Living in Liberty as an organization comes alongside them and helps them take those steps to get themselves out of these situations and gives them hope. I hope that helped you understand a little bit about the difference between prostitution and trafficking, and we hope to educate on more of these issues. If you could like, share, and subscribe to the Living in Liberty YouTube channel today, that would be great. If you're interested in requesting a speaker from Living in Liberty, that's also wonderful. You can go to livinginliberty.org, fill out the request for a speaker, and our awareness and prevention lead will be happy to get back to you and arrange for one of our team members to come speak to anybody that you would like us to. We speak to organizations, churches, schools, anybody that will invite us. We do online presentations as well, and we'll do some travel. So I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you learned something today.